How's it going, everybody? Sean Allen here. Another day, another vlog. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2020. And if I'm not mistaken, let me double check. Yes, today is day 70 of my vlogs here at home from Universal Studios Hollywood. As I previously mentioned, today is Thursday, which means it's Throwback Thursday. So I thought for this video, I share with you a story or two. Yeah, just one story about something that happened to me while I was at college. Now, as some of you are aware, we have a lot of students right now graduating from different colleges and high schools and really just any classes, really. Class of 2020, right? So for those of you who are graduating, congratulations, you guys made it. I know that this year was kind of a bit of a, but you made it, right? That's always the best part, when it's that relief that the classes are over. That's how I felt when I graduated from Los Angeles Valley College in 2012 and Cal State Northridge in 2017. So for this story, we're going to go back in time to, let me remember which year was, spring 2015. And it was for my animation class. This is going to be a fun one because this was a special animation course that unfortunately I don't think is no longer available at Cal State Northridge, but it was an animation course where we basically learned how to animate a cartoon. I had never done any animation before. I never really used Adobe that much except for like Photoshop. But anyways, the programs that we used were Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Flash. When I first started the course, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, right? As with many projects, you're like kind of like brain dead. Like what am I going to do? So I tried coming up with like different stories of cartoons and stuff that basically you can do whatever you want with your cartoon, make it as crazy as you want it to be. And as I was going through all these stories, this one in particular was kind of like saying, hey, make me, right? So I had to come up with like a summary of the story and the characters and like a small script. It wasn't a really long script because there wasn't really a whole lot of like dialogue in the film. It's like a visual story, basically, more visual than dialogue. And action, because it was going to involve action. So the basic summary of the story was that this one fellow, nameless, he is walking around. He feels very down, basically, like he's down the dumps. He's just so like sad about himself. He's just walking around in like this forest, and he finds this special tool that helps him become powerful. And he basically uses it to create a better world, basically. And the villain who wanted this world to be terrible is like, and they have a fight, basically. That was the basic idea for the story. So the world that this character is living in is completely black and white, no color whatsoever. It's been completely deprived of color whatsoever. He puts on the bracelet, he becomes this kind of like a superhero, basically. And he's all color. He is all like different colors that you can imagine. You can tell what's colorful and what's not because of this character. And with his ability to just like with the wave of a hand, he can create color and make things colorful. Well, the villain who created this world doesn't like the fact that he's found this bracelet. And apparently he has a similar bracelet, but it contains the dark powers. That was the whole plot, basically. So now comes the pre-production process. What were you going to do in terms of pre-production, like the layout of the land, the characters, the scenes, and all that, and even creating a storyboard. Guess what? The reason I'm doing this particular Throwback Thursday is because I actually found, I thought I lost this, but I found the original hand-drawn storyboard for my animation that I did at CSUN. Now, I forgot to mention to you guys what this cartoon was called. It's called Color Man. There's 17 pages total here. So here we have just, we call it a slug. It's basically a black plate. And then it fades in to clouds that are parting. And then it pans down to these trees. Now, again, this is all in black and white, okay? So it's all black and white. We're looking down and we see the forest. We have trees everywhere. There's no voiceovers and no music, no special effects. Oh, but there is like sound effects. There are sound effects. It's not completely silent. So this character, as you can see, he's nameless. He's just walking through the forest. He looks pretty sad. And he sees a flower on the ground. He's just like, okay, whatever. But it's black and white, obviously. There's no color to it. Let's go to the next page. Oh, it's a close-up of the flower, but you see a shadow here. So he's like looking at it. He looks up in the sky, and the clouds are moving. Just nothing. Like nothing's there to inspire him. So he's looking around, looking around. A leaf falls to the ground. The leaf was kind of a fun little ad. Like just a random leaf just falls on the ground. And then all of a sudden he sees something in the distance, this sparkly substance right here. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to go check it out. So he walks around and he stops and he sees the item. Now we go to the next page. This is page 4. Again, these are all my original drawings. And he sees the chest. Now the chest is the first item that we see that is colorful. It's brown, it's got the yellow, it's got the sparkles around it. So he opens up the chest and he finds the bracelet. He's like, oh wow, what's this? And he picks up the bracelet and he's like, oh, this is cool. And he decides, okay, I'm going to actually put it on. He gets zapped. Now, we go to black because he's basically fainted. Then he opens up his eyes. Now, what's funny is that when you see his eye, it looks normal, but then it opens up. It is shaped like Spider-Man's eye, which is my little touch for Spider-Man. And he's getting up. And you notice all these colors. He's getting up, and he's looking at his hands. He's like, what the heck happened? And he's like, all these, like, different poses here. Is like, all these colors. This is from Power Rangers, by the way, because whenever they show a new Ranger, they always show, like, different aspects of him, like different sides, basically, and they go this bam, 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 you know, and then his special ability starts to kick in. He's like, oh my gosh, what the heck is that? So he flicks his hand away, and it hits a tree, and it turns into a colorful tree. So he's like, did I do that? He's like, looking down, like, what the heck? You can see right here, he's like, oh, that's interesting. What if I do it over here? So he takes his hand, and he just goes like this, and it turns colorful. Now, he's like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then he sees the flower again that he saw on the ground. Black and white once again. He then kneels down, takes his hand, he touches it, and boom, immediately it turns into color. He's like, this is incredible. So he's like all excited, and then he starts just having fun, and it starts turning into color. Now, this was kind of fun. I'll go back to this in a minute. But anyways, so it fades out, and then it fades back to this tower. And this is my tribute to the Eye of Sauron. If you guys haven't seen my video about my literature books that I've been reading, this is supposed to be my tribute to the Eye of Sauron, because that is a big eyeball looking from a tower. So the eyeball from the character is looking around from this telescope thing, and then he notices something, so he quickly looks around, and he's like, what's going on? And he sees trees just starting to turn to color, and he's like, oh, he's got this weird, like, scar on his face. And his bracelet activates, and he's like, no. And then he jumps, like superhero jumps, and superhero landing, wait for it, superhero landing, and boom, he does superhero landing right there. Only that's a super villain landing, and yes, that's from Iron Man. And he's like looking around as he's standing up, and everything is turned to color. Now, I know it's not colorized here, but basically everything is all colored here. And for just a random thing, he, like the leaf that falls, I decided to have a bee fly past him. He's like, oh, but it's in color. So somehow the color man was able to colorize the bee that was flying around. So then all of a sudden he hears a twig snap. He looks back behind him, and we see Color Man eating an apple. That was another difficult thing to edit. He sees the villain, he drops the apple, and they're like, oh, it's fighting time. And then we hear him say, the villain say, no more color. And then he's like, he uses like almost like the Force in a way, and he causes Color Man to basically crash into a tree. And he's like, whoa, that's not cool, man. Page 14. And he's like, no, color is better. And then they have an all-out battle with their powers and all, and it just turns into this, like, if you have to give you a really perfect example, I would say this would be like Voldemort versus Harry Potter from, like, Goblet of Fire, or whenever they battle each other, or him against Dumbledore. They have, like, these moments where their like, streams meet from their wands. This is basically like that. I guess in a way that I didn't really intend it to be a tribute to Harry Potter, but now that I look at it, it's like, okay, I can see it. And this was actually my tribute to, like, Pokemon and, like, all these different shows, like, from anime, where you see the like, a portion of the screen, like, slice in half. You see one character on the top here, another character here. That's like what you see in anime and all that, or like a video game and stuff. So they're like just battling here with their powers, and he's like, okay, that's it, I'm done, I'm angry. And he just unleashes the power, and he's like, oh god, here we go, and boom, it just completely sends him off, never to be seen again. And he's like, I just defeated my first villain, and he flies. He flies too, apparently. Yep, he flies. So he flies off, and as he's flying, this rainbow comes out of the back end. The back end of him. And he flies off. He circles around the world. Technically, this was supposed to be a really cool animated effect where I show him flying around the world. He then flies off into space. And he's like, hey, I did good here. And then he flies off, never to be seen again. The end. I mean, okay, so there was a lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff happening. I haven't seen this in like 5 years. That's how old this thing is, by the way. 5 years. I made this in 2015, and it's already 2020, spring 2020. Yeah, 5 years. Oh my goodness. That is the pre-production process. At the same time, I'm also creating the characters. I'm creating all of the set pieces, all of the everything.